My name is Jonathan Blake Harrow. I'm 53 years old, and for most of my adult life, I believed I understood what my purpose on this earth was. I served in federal protection for more than 2 decades. 2 decades of black suits, secure perimeters, early flights, late nights, and the constant pressure of knowing that one wrong second could change the course of history. I wasn't a politician, I wasn't a general. I was the man standing 6 feet behind them, eyes sharp, hands steady, heartbeat controlled. My job wasn't to be noticed. My job was to make sure they made it home. I protected 3 presidents through different chapters of this country's story. I stood post through bitter winters in D.C., through summer rallies that felt like the whole nation was sweating and shouting at once. I learned how crowds move, how danger breathes, how a hand in the wrong pocket can mean everything. People sometimes think men like me love adrenaline. The truth is, we love order. The feeling that no matter how loud the world becomes, we can still bring some measure of calm to it. My wife, Rebecca, used to tease me that I loved my job more than I loved Saturdays in bed. Maybe she was right. Marriage to a man like me is not easy. There's always one more briefing, one more shift, one more birthday I swore I wouldn't miss and still somehow did. We had one son, Caleb, 20 years old now. When he was little, he thought I was some kind of superhero. I remember him telling his classmates that his dad protects the whole country. As he got older, that shimmer faded. He didn't want a hero. He wanted a father who could sit in the bleachers at his games, who could show up without a radio buzzing on his chest. I told myself I was serving something bigger, protecting democracy, guarding freedom, keeping evil at bay with nothing but vigilance and a Kevlar vest. But as the years went on, the reasons I gave myself began to feel thinner, like I was patching holes in a belief that used to be solid. Still, I stayed, because men like me don't quit. We tell ourselves duty is enough. That duty will make sense of the pieces of our lives that fall through the cracks. But what happened to me, what I'm about to tell you, shattered every belief I had about duty, about danger, about life and death, and about the one who stands above all of it. I didn't go looking for God. I didn't go chasing visions or miracles or divine missions. But sometimes the Lord steps into a man's life without asking whether he's ready. And on the day everything changed, I was anything but ready. It was July 27, 2025, a date that lives in my memory like a burn mark. We were in Phoenix, Arizona, the kind of heat that soaks into your bones and makes the air shimmer like a mirage. A rally had drawn tens of thousands. Flags everywhere. Voices rising and falling like waves in a storm. I'd worked security details for rallies before, hundreds of them, but that day had a tension I couldn't explain. Not danger exactly. Just a pressure in the air, like something waiting to break. My position was near the main exit route for the motorcade. From there I could see almost everything. The stage, the crowd, the rooftops, the open sky that felt too wide, too bright. My eyes scanned the perimeter, then the hands in the crowd, then the windows of distant buildings. It was muscle memory. After 20 years, your mind processes threats before you even consciously register them. It was routine. Everything was routine. Until the moment it wasn't. The first sound wasn't even a gunshot, not to my ears. It was a crack, sharp and wrong, like a heavy board snapping in half. I felt the vibration of it more than I understood what it was. Training took over instantly. No hesitation. No thought. I moved toward the principal, toward the president, my body acting faster than the fear rising in my chest. Then came the second shot. I didn't hear it. I felt it, like someone slammed a metal sledgehammer straight into the center of my chest. My whole body jolted backward. My legs buckled. The pavement came up hard against my spine, and suddenly the sky above me was spinning, turning white at the edges. I tasted metal, that bitter, unmistakable taste of blood rising in the throat. People were screaming. Agents were shouting. Radios were exploding with frantic voices. I tried to breathe, but nothing came. My lungs were frozen, locked tight. Every inhale felt like dragging air through broken glass. My vision narrowed, the edges collapsing inward like a tunnel being sealed shut. Someone's hands were on me. I could hear my own heartbeat, fast, chaotic, then slower, slower, and then silence. Not fading, not dimming, just gone. Like someone hit a switch and muted the entire world. The heat vanished. The pain vanished. The weight of my body on the pavement vanished. I was no longer lying down. I was standing. But I wasn't in Phoenix. I wasn't anywhere I recognized. I stood in the middle of a vast open field, golden grass stretching out to every horizon, moving in a gentle breeze I couldn't feel but somehow knew was there. The sky wasn't blue or gray or any color my eyes could name. It was light, pure, living light, as if the very air glowed from within. I looked down at myself. No blood. No wound. No broken breath. My chest was whole. I felt steady, clear, weightless. For the first time in my adult life. I wasn't thinking about threats. I wasn't scanning. I wasn't afraid. I was simply awake. And then I heard my name. Jonathan. A voice behind me, calm, steady, unmistakably familiar in a way that made no earthly sense. I turned. And that's when everything I thought I knew about life, death, and God began to break open. He stood about 10 feet away. A figure dressed in white. Not glowing, not theatrical, just simple, clean, almost humble. Yet the air around him felt alive. Weighted but gentle. Like standing near the ocean at dawn. I tried to focus on his face, to memorize every detail, but it was impossible. Not because it was blurred, it wasn't. Not because it was bright, it wasn't that either. It was because the moment my eyes met his, everything inside me shifted. He didn't look like someone I recognized. He felt like someone my soul had been waiting for without even knowing it. His eyes held something deeper than emotion, a kind of kindness that didn't soften him but strengthened him. A seriousness wrapped in compassion. A tenderness wrapped in authority. A presence that made me want to stand straighter, and at the same time, fall to my knees. I knew who he was before a single word left his mouth. Jesus, I whispered. He gave a small, knowing smile, the kind that says, I've known you long before you ever thought to look for me. Your time is not finished, Jonathan, he said as he stepped closer. His voice felt like it filled the entire field. No echo, no thunder, just truth. I died, I said. Didn't I? The shot, I felt it. I know I'm dead. Your heart stopped, he answered gently. But I did not call you home. He paused, letting me breathe in the weight of his presence. I called you here. My thoughts scrambled for meaning. Why? Why me? I'm no prophet, no preacher. I've lived my life in the shadows, watching other men lead. I've done my job. That's all. You have guarded men for many years, Jesus said, his expression soft but unwavering. But now I will show you what no man can guard against. Before I could ask what he meant, the field dissolved. The warm light faded. And suddenly, I was standing high above the earth. Not floating, not flying, simply placed there, held up by something I couldn't see but completely trusted. Below me, the United States stretched out like a map made of living light. Cities glimmered like stars scattered across the land. It was beautiful, peaceful, almost holy. Then I noticed the lights. They were dimming. Not all at once, slowly, softly, one by one, like someone was walking through a house turning off lamp. I leaned forward instinctively. What's happening? Jesus stood beside me again. No sound, no transition, simply there. The spirit of confusion is spreading, he said. America will not fall by a foreign enemy. It will fall from within. His words hit me harder than the bullet ever had. I saw the cities flickering, fading. And in the streets, people shouting, faces twisted with anger, fists raised, neighbors against neighbors. Not soldiers. Not invaders. Their own people. Our own people. What is this? I asked. The consequence of pride, he said. The fruit of forgetting where true strength comes from. I felt a sinking in my chest, not physical, deeper, spiritual. We have to stop it, I said. We have to warn them. Tell them what's coming. Look closer. The world beneath me zoomed in, as if guided by a hand I couldn't see. I saw Washington, D.C., the Capitol building bright and white like a monument of resolve. But around it moved shadows. Not natural shadows. Something darker, not physical but present. Heavy. Cold. They wound around the building like smoke with weight, whispering into ears I could not see. It made my skin crawl. My breath caught. Pride will be their stumbling block, Jesus said quietly. They believe they can save themselves. They have forgotten me. My throat tightened. The fear rising inside me wasn't for myself. It was for all of us. Please, I said, turning to him. Let me go back. Let me help. Let me tell them. Jesus looked at me with a mixture of sorrow and certainty, a look that said he understood my heart, but his plan was larger than my desire. What you're about to see must come to pass, he said. The warnings were given long ago. They chose not to listen. Then why show me? I whispered, feeling small, powerless. Because someone must carry the testimony, he said, his voice steady as the field of light we had left behind. Even when the world does not want to hear it. As he spoke, the vision shifted again. Something darker. Something closer. Something meant to shake me to my core. And it did. The world blurred, then snapped into focus again. I was standing at the edge of a massive outdoor event, a rally. The stage, the banners, the noise of a crowd unified in one roaring voice. I could see everything with impossible clarity, the flags, the signs, the faces. And standing at the podium, the president, older than when I'd last seen him. His hair grayer, his posture slightly heavier, but his voice still strong, defiant, unwavering. The kind of voice that pulls a crowd toward it like a tide. He was mid-sentence when the air around me tightened. Something in my spirit recoiled, a warning without words. Time slowed, then stopped. Up on a distant rooftop, a figure knelt. A rifle glinted under the sun. A scope. A steady hand. The crosshairs settled over the president's face. No! I shouted, running toward the stage, or trying to. My legs wouldn't move. My body was frozen in place as though time held me hostage. My voice didn't reach anyone. The crowd stayed suspended in a strange, silent stutter, as if the whole scene had become a photograph. The shot rang out, but I never saw where it landed. The vision dissolved, pulled away like a curtain. Jesus stood beside me again. There will be another attempt, he said quietly. And another. My stomach twisted. The scene shifted again. A university auditorium. Bright lights. Hundreds of students. On the stage stood a young man, energetic, sharp, his voice filled with conviction. I didn't know him, but I heard his name whispered around me, carried on a presence I couldn't see. Ethan Calloway. He was speaking passionately, moving his hands with urgency, igniting the crowd, a young leader, bold and unafraid. Then suddenly, his face drained of color. His words cut off mid-sentence. His eyes went blank. He collapsed forward, hitting the stage with a sound that felt heavier than his body should have made. The audience erupted, screams, chaos, people rushing toward him. Darkness moved behind the moment, like a hand snuffing out a candle. The vision blurred again. Now I stood in a television studio, harsh lights, a polished stage. A senator in a navy suit was mid-debate, speaking firmly, gesturing with a practiced confidence. Then his voice cracked. His eyes widened. He grabbed his chest as if something inside had torn open. He stumbled, fell. Producers shouted. Cameras cut away. The image went black. One more, Jesus said, not in anger, not in fear, but with a sorrow that cut deeper than anything I'd felt before. The last vision came quickly. Too blurry to identify the place. The figure's face indistinct. But the intent unmistakable. The same shadowed force. The same unseen hand moving behind the events, pulling strings woven from confusion and hatred. I felt my knees weaken. My voice cracked. Why, Lord? Why show me all of this if I can't stop it? If none of them can? Jesus looked at me, and in his eyes I saw something ancient, something eternal, something heartbreakingly patient. Because the attacks are not against men, Jonathan, he said softly. They are against hope. His words hit me with devastating clarity. The enemy seeks to silence voices that carry truth. When leaders fall, hearts tremble. When hope is wounded, fear takes root. Tears burned in my eyes. There was no shame in them, only a grief so deep it felt like my soul was bleeding. Then what's the point? I asked, barely able to speak. If I can't stop any of this, if everything just breaks apart? It will not all break, Jesus said. And as he raised his hand, the visions shifted one final time. The chaos fell away. The darkness pulled back. Something entirely different began to unfold before me, something that didn't erase the fear, but rose above it like dawn after a night too long. Something that felt like the first breath of hope. The darkness peeled back like a veil torn down the middle. In its place, I saw the American flag, but not the flag I'd known all my life. This one was split, ripped clean down the center. The left side hung heavy, covered in ash, edges burned and frayed as if pulled from a fire. The right side glowed, not with flames, but with a radiant, golden light that seemed to pulse like a heartbeat. For a moment I didn't understand. Was this destruction? Judgment? A warning? Then the vision widened. Across the country, towns, fields, small neighborhoods, people were falling to their knees. Not in fear. Not in defeat. In prayer. Some were alone in dimly lit rooms. Some gathered in circles in dusty parking lot. Some knelt in quiet, forgotten rural churches where the pews hadn't been full in decades. Old men, young mothers, teenagers with their faces buried in their palms, tears on their cheeks, hands lifted, hearts laid bare. They weren't praying for politics, or for victory, or for their side to win. They were praying for mercy, for forgiveness, for God to breathe life back into a nation choking on its own pride. The light from the bright half of the flag began to flow downward, not like fire, but like water. Streams of gold pouring across the soil, threading through back roads, weaving into towns nobody ever reports on, reaching houses the news cameras never enter. Wherever the light touched, people rose to their feet changed, not triumphant, but humbled. Their faces shone with something I hadn't seen in the earlier visions. Purpose, clarity, hope that wasn't naive but reborn through brokenness. I heard Jesus' voice beside me. After the shaking, he said, there will be awakening. I turned to him. His eyes reflected the same light pouring across the land. The proud will be humbled, he continued. The hidden will be exposed. And my people, those who have been quiet, those who have been waiting, they will rise. More scenes unfolded. A small-town pastor opening a church that had been empty for years, only to find every seat filled. A broken family kneeling together for the first time since they could remember. A young woman destroying the things that had held her captive for so long, addictions, fears, lies, and stepping forward like she had finally remembered who she was. Men who hadn't prayed since childhood suddenly lifting their hands, weeping without understanding why. Children singing hymns louder than the storms outside their windows. The light didn't cover the entire country, but it covered enough to spark something that darkness could not drown. Jesus spoke again, his voice firm and final. The hands of justice and mercy will move together, he said. What has been done in darkness will come to light. But those who have sown in faithfulness will reap in glory. The vision began to brighten, as though someone was turning the world itself toward dawn. The golden light intensified until every shadow vanished. Soon the brightness became overwhelming, a white so pure, so absolute, it felt like stepping into the heart of peace itself. I raised a hand to shield my eyes, but the light only grew. Lord, I whispered, what happens now? He turned to me, his expression filled with something deeper than authority, something like longing. Your time is not finished, Jonathan. The word struck me with a force no bullet could ever match. You must go back. My heart twisted. Back? Back to pain, chaos, uncertainty? Back to the broken world I had just seen torn open? I don't want to leave, I breathed. I felt like a child again, small, vulnerable, exposed. I want to stay. Please, let me stay. Jesus placed his hand on my shoulder. Warmth surged through me, comfort, strength, love intertwined in a way I cannot describe. I know, he said softly. But your son still needs his father. Your wife still needs her husband. And this nation, wounded, searching, still needs those who have seen truth and are willing to speak it, even when the world refuses to listen. My resolve shattered. I sobbed, openly, uncontrollably, the way a man does only when everything inside him breaks at once. What if I forget? The words tore out of me. What if I fail you? What if I say the wrong thing? You will not forget, he said. And you will not be alone. His hand lifted from my shoulder. Then the light exploded. The light swallowed everything. Then, pain. Not the sharp, tearing pain of a wound. Crushing weight in my chest, like someone was trying to pound life back into a hollow shell. Voices thundered around me, urgent, desperate, overlapping. Stay with us. He's coming back. We have a pulse. I gasped, a violent, shuddering inhale that felt like being dragged across broken glass. My lungs screamed. My ribs burned. The world rushed back in a blur of sound and color. Bright lights. Faces above me. The metallic taste of blood in my mouth. The thrum of sirens. The smell of sweat, smoke, and antiseptic. I was in the back of an ambulance. The doors were open. Behind them, chaos. Agents running. Police shouting. People crying, shaking, pointing. The rally grounds looked like a battlefield. Don't move, a paramedic said, pressing a mask to my face. You took a round to the chest. You're lucky you're still here. Lucky. If only he knew. I tried to speak, but all that came out was a hoarse rasp. My throat felt raw, scraped clean. My heart hammered like it was trying to break free from my ribcage. How long? I croaked. A voice answered from the corner of the ambulance. 7 minutes. You were gone for 7 minutes. 7 minutes. 7 minutes on one side of reality. A lifetime on the other. The hospital swallowed 2 weeks of my life. 2 weeks of white ceilings, painkillers, and nurses checking vitals. 2 weeks of doctors shaking their heads and calling it a miracle that the bullet had hit my vest at an angle, had stopped just short of ending everything. I didn't argue. Miracle was too small a word for what had happened. Rebecca came the first night. She walked into the room, saw me hooked to monitors, and her face crumpled. She didn't speak. She just took my hand and pressed it to her forehead, tears sliding down her cheeks. When I finally told her what I'd seen, not the political visions, not the specifics, but the field, the light, the presence of Jesus, she didn't laugh. She didn't question. She just believed. My son, Caleb, came the next day. He stood by my bed, hands in his pockets, eyes red-rimmed. He tried to look tough, but the moment he hugged me, his whole body shook. I held him as tightly as the pain in my ribs allowed. I didn't tell him everything. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Some truths need time before they can be spoken aloud. The agency placed me on medical leave first. Then early retirement. I didn't fight it. For the first time in my adult life, I understood, truly understood, that my old mission had ended the moment my heart stopped. What I'd seen, what I'd been shown, had rewritten my purpose. But I didn't run to the public. I didn't seek interviews. I didn't write a book or try to become some man with a message. I kept quiet. For years, I carried the visions inside me like a sealed letter. Not out of fear. Out of obedience. Jesus had told me I could not warn them about the who or the when. Because it must happen. because the shaking was already written into the bones of the nation. But he also told me something else, something that burned in me every single day. After the shaking, there will be a rising. Those words echoed through every prayer I whispered before dawn, through every moment of doubt, through every news headline that felt like another light dimming on the map I'd seen from above. I didn't know when to speak, or how, or to whom, until one afternoon, years later, when I sat across from a retired pastor named Samuel Briggs, a man I had trusted for decades. I told him I needed to record my testimony, not for fame, not for proof, but so someone would have it when the time came. He listened to everything, the field, the visions, the warnings, the awakening. When I finished, he was silent for a long time. "You know most people won't believe this," he finally said. "I know. And you can't prove any of it." "I know. Then why tell me?" I looked at him, and the answer felt as clear as the day I'd heard it from the lips of Christ himself. "Because Jesus told me to." Pastor Briggs nodded slowly. He reached out, pressed the stop button on the recorder, and said, "I'll keep this safe, and when the time is right, I'll share it." I didn't know then that the time would be now. I didn't know that the test Jesus spoke of would already be unfolding. And I didn't know that you, listening to this right now, would be part of the reason it had to be told. If you're hearing this, then Pastor Briggs kept his word. It means the moment Jesus spoke of, the moment when silence could no longer serve, has arrived. I don't know what has already happened in your world. I don't know what you've seen, what you've lost, or what you're afraid of right now. But I know this: the shaking has begun. Not the shaking of buildings or borders. The shaking of hearts. The shaking of pride. The shaking of everything we've put above God, everything we trusted more than Him, everything we leaned on when we should have been on our knees. Jesus didn't show me dates. He didn't show me headlines. He didn't show me how long the darkness would last or how deep the division would cut. He showed me something deeper. Why it must happen. Not to destroy us, not to punish us, but to strip away the illusions we've built around ourselves. The illusions that we are our own saviors, that we are our own truth, that we are our own hope. The voices that fall, the leaders who fade, the institutions that shake. They are not the end. They are the awakening. Because what rises afterward is not built by politics or power or human brilliance. It is built by faith, pure, uncluttered, stubborn faith. The kind of faith you hear in a whispered prayer at 2 a.m. The kind you see in a father holding his child and asking God for strength. The kind born from brokenness, not victory. When Jesus looked at me in that field of light, He didn't say, "Prepare your plans." He didn't say, "Prepare your arguments." He didn't say, "Prepare your weapons." He said, "Prepare your hearts." Because hearts, surrendered, humbled, purified, are the only things the darkness cannot break. You can't stop what's coming. You can't outrun it. You can't hide from it. And you were never meant to. But you can stand in it, rooted, grounded, unshaken. You can choose prayer over panic, hope over fear, faith over confusion. You can choose to kneel now, so that you can stand later. I died for 7 minutes, and in those 7 minutes I saw the fall and the rise, the breaking and the mending, the darkness and the light. I saw a nation torn, half burned, half glowing, and I saw the light win ground, inch by inch, through the hands of people who simply refused to stop praying. And I'm telling you now, Jesus is real, heaven is real, and He has not forgotten us. This test, this final test, has already begun, but so has the rising. If you felt something while listening to this, even the smallest spark, hold on to it, nurture it, pray over it, let it grow. And if this testimony touched you, if it reminded you that God still moves, still speaks, still saves, I ask you now humbly, join us. Subscribe to Timeless Religious Stories. Not for me, but so that more hearts can be reached, more hope can be restored, and more people can remember that light has never once failed to return after the darkness. I am Jonathan Blake Harrow. I was dead for 7 minutes, but Jesus sent me back for this. To tell you not to lose hope, to tell you to prepare your heart, and to tell you that the rising has already begun.